So all the buzz right now in the college football world is about the playoffs, right? We went from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team playoff, which is what we currently have. And there's a lot of people wanting to expand it to 16 teams or 24 teams. And most of the discussions on that are purely about football and conferences and who's going to be in and how it's going to be formatted. And I totally get that. But in this video, I want to share with you the good and bad, how that would affect the Tuscaloosa real estate market if the playoffs were expanded to 16 teams, 24, or beyond. I'm Phil Duke Jr., and this is Living in Tuscaloosa County. I'm a local real estate broker in the Tuscaloosa area. I've been living here since 1996. And football and real estate have a lot in common, right? Last year, Alabama kind of learned the hard way. If you didn't have the right guys on the offensive line, you didn't have the right coach coaching them on the offensive line, it's going to be hard to run the ball, right? We had a terrible year, 125th or 126th in the country, something like that. And, real estate's very similar to that. And fortunately, I've been helping people, hundreds of people at this point, buy and sell and invest in the Tuscaloosa real estate market. You need a real estate person in the area that knows their stuff, that's not just going to do everything you tell them to do, but it's going to actually give you some advice that will help you along the way, not just be a server at a restaurant who gives it to you however you want, but somebody who you can actually, run ideas by. And if you've got an idea of moving to Tuscaloosa, investing in Tuscaloosa, you owe it to yourself to click the link below, find my calendar link. You can hop on a call with me, a phone call or a video chat. And I do have a team here that works out of this office, 30-something agents. But when you reach out and you work with me, you're not going to be working with one of my assistants or a rookie real estate agent. It'll be me and you from beginning to end. It's very common. People watch these videos. They come into town for a day. We meet, for lunch, or we meet in the morning, go look at some properties, and we'll do a whole tour of the town. I'll take you to some genuine Alabama barbecue, and hopefully give you some great real estate advice along the way. So if that's something that you're thinking about, just click that link below and let's connect. So an expanded playoff, right? We went from having a 2-team system under the BCS with computers ranking everybody to having a 4-team playoff to now having a 12-team playoff with a committee who decides who's in and who's not, who passes the eye test, who had the best strength of schedule, quality wins, quality losses, and they're saying it's still just not enough. We want to go bigger and better. So I think an expanded playoff would actually help Tuscaloosa's real estate market potentially in a few ways. We've already, because of the expansion of the SEC and the conference itself growing, we've seen now, Alabama and all the other SEC teams are now playing a 9-game SEC schedule, right? Previously, it was 8 games. And so with 9 games now, that's going to help Tuscaloosa because every other year you're going to get an extra home SEC game, right? Right now you get 4 of those and you've got 3 non-conference. But going forward, you're going to have every other year you'll have 5 home game SEC home games one year, and then the next year you'll have 5 away games in the SEC conference. So that's an extra weekend if you own property in the Tuscaloosa area. That is potentially another weekend that you could make money, right? It's very common that Tuscaloosa residents rent their personal homes out for game day weekends. In fact, we have clients here that have bought properties in Tuscaloosa and Northport and the surrounding area, and they make enough on those 7 home game weekends to pay their mortgage payment for the whole year, right? So they go to Nashville for the weekend, they go visit grandma, they go down to the Alabama Gulf Coast to go to the beach for the weekend, and somebody comes and stays in their property. They make thousands of dollars for that weekend, and it can be enough to pay for the house itself, right? So we're going to have extra home games and not just money games where we're paying Louisiana Monroe or Tennessee Chattanooga to come in here and beat them 49-0. It's going to be an SEC game, an extra SEC game. And on that as well, if this playoff does expand, we could potentially get more home playoff games, right? Alabama went on the road this past year in 2025, went on the road and played at Oklahoma in the first round of the playoffs. And I wasn't at that game. I didn't travel. I didn't go to that one. But people who went to those and obviously just watching it on TV, seeing that first round of the playoffs in the 12-team playoff format, seeing those home games was amazing, right? The fans were excited. The stadiums were full. It was, for some of those teams, it was the first time they've ever been in the playoffs, and now they're getting to do that game at their home stadium, which, in my opinion, is where all college football games should be. I do not like neutral sites. I do not like bowl games. I think college football should be played on college football campuses and inside college stadiums, right? The home game experience. So, with an expanded playoff, we already saw under the 12-team format of some teams got that extra home game. If it goes to 16 or 24, there's likely going to be more of those opportunities. I don't know. I'm not the one that gets to determine how that's set up. But the thinking is if it's a 16 or 24, there's going to be an extra round of playoff games. It would make sense for those games to be held. I think all the games should be on college campus until the national championship game. That's the way I would do it. If I was in charge, I'm not. I'm just a real estate broker in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm not the one getting to make the decisions. But I believe all college football games should be on college football campuses. And then what happens, all right, another thing this helps. I have this happen all the time. All right. I recently helped a guy. He's watches this channel. Maybe he's watching this video right now. An NFL season ticket holder, NFL fan, pretty much his entire life. Keeps up with college football, watches college football, but had never experienced a home game at Bryant-Denny Stadium until his daughter was looking at colleges. They were in Birmingham, actually looking at UAB, which is a very good campus as well. The University of Alabama, Birmingham. It's a great school. A lot of doctors go there, right? They've got a UAB hospital system there that's great. And they just thought to themselves, hey, while we're in Birmingham checking out UAB, why don't we just buy some tickets and go to an Alabama home football game? And was so blown away by the entire experience of a night game in Bryant-Denny Stadium that he said, you know what, my daughter can go to school anywhere to get her 4-year degree, and she has plans to go on later on to go to medical school. But for her 4-year degree, I want her going there and being in that kind of environment on Saturday nights in the fall. And so the more home games we have, the more stories we see like that, where people say, you know what, I always heard about Alabama football. I know they've been good for a long time, but until I went to a game myself and saw it, I could not imagine how it was like in real life, how it was in person. So more home games means more people, having eyeballs on Tuscaloosa, more nationally televised games, more people coming to visit, more people like the example I was telling you, where they're not really an Alabama fan, but they've watched Alabama, they're familiar, they know about some of the history, but they decide to come experience it for themselves. So the more home games we have, the more chances we have like that. So I think that could be good for the growth of Tuscaloosa, right? Tuscaloosa is a fast growing area right now. And it's because more and more people are coming and experiencing what we have here in the Tuscaloosa area. And when they come here, they say, you know what, I want some of that. So I think an expanded playoff could be good. I think it could also be bad. I've got a few things here that I wrote down. Some ways that an expanded playoff could hurt Tuscaloosa. Okay. We've already seen this a little bit. We were pretty spoiled under Coach Nick Saban. Pretty much every year, we were winning 10 or more games. I think we actually went like 16 or 17 years in a row where Alabama football won 10 games or more. which meant every year Alabama was pretty much in the hunt for the national championship under the 4-team format, under the 2-team format, and under the 12-team format, right? So what started happening for Alabama fans during that time is, instead of spending a bunch of money to come down to go, to a home game, Alabama versus Auburn at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, why don't we just wait for the playoffs and let's go to the playoff game? All right, so most people aren't made of money. They don't have unlimited funds, and fans for a while have had to pick. Which games am I going to go to? Am I going to go to a home game in September? Which, right, if you lose a game, very much like the NFL, if you lose a game in September or October, it stinks when Alabama loses a game, right? I can remember being at the Alabama-Texas game a few years ago when Texas came into town. It wasn't fun that we lost, but we still made it to the playoff, right? So, and that's how it is in the NFL, right? A game in September and October is awesome. It's an awesome experience no matter when it is on the calendar. But if you're a hardcore fan, you've only got one game to go to all year, you might decide to just hold out and see if Alabama gets one of those first round or second round home playoff games, right? If you're going to make one trip, spend a bunch of money for tickets, for travel, for a place to stay, you might end up waiting for the playoffs. And so one of the bad things that an expanded playoff has already done and will continue to do at a higher level is it will make the regular season mean less, right? I mean, we hate losing to Tennessee or to Georgia or to LSU or to Ole Miss or anybody. We hate losing, but it doesn't hurt as bad when you lose early or if you even lose late in the season. We've seen Alabama one year, Alabama under Nick Saban lost the last game of the season against Auburn. Auburn beat us, and we still made it to the national championship and won, right? So an expanded playoff, right? Like the way it was with 2 teams and 4 teams, with a 2-team playoff and a 4-team playoff, if you lost a game, you might be done. Your hopes for playing for the national championship were over under a 2-team or a 4-team, playoff format potentially. But as it's expanded to 12, and if it goes to 16 and 24, it's still not going to be fun when you lose in the regular season, but it's not going to cost you a chance to go play for the national championship. So, the regular season could mean less. You'll have people experiencing travel fatigue, right? Gosh, I've already gone to 3 Alabama home games. Now we got 3 rounds of the playoffs plus a national championship game. If it expands to that, right? I don't know many fans that go to every single Alabama game, right? So you've already got to pick and choose. And I hope, I already kind of gave my opinion. I think all games should be played on campus, except for the national championship game. Let that rotate around. But we also have the bowl system, right? There's been these bowl games that mean less and less every year that goes on, right? You have all these players that decide they're going to the NFL and they're not going to even play in the bowl game, or the season didn't go the way they wanted to. They're not in the playoffs, so they don't care about the bowl game. They're going to go ahead and enter the transfer portal, and so now half your team is people that hadn't played all year, and your starters that you had have already decided that they're leaving. They're not coming back. So I think that kind of potentially stinks. But there's a lot of money tied up in those bowl games and the bowl game system. So an expanded playoff, as much as I would hope, that would mean more on-campus games, right? I think all those games should be on campus. It could mean that all of those games are bowl games at neutral sites. And so now you're going to have to go to potentially 3 or 4 rounds of playoffs all over the country, and none of them are in Tuscaloosa, right? I think that could really, really hurt Tuscaloosa, right? I think people would maybe go to 1 or go to 2, or maybe they just wait till the end. And unfortunately, if we don't make it to the end, then they just miss their opportunity. So, college football Saturdays in the South on campus at Bryant-Denny Stadium are always going to be great experiences. Don't get me wrong. But a loss at home during the regular season, it doesn't matter as much right now under the 12 team format. And if we go to 16 or 24 teams, it's going to mean even less. So I kind of hate that, because I think that's what's really made college football so important was, under the 2 team playoff and the 4 team playoff, every week was a playoff game. Because if you lost, you might be done. Your hopes of getting into that playoff and playing for a national championship could be over on any given week. And it made it a lot of fun. So like I understand why they're wanting to expand. I'm not against it, but I I wish that they would come up with a format that would protect that. And I think they could, right? I think, in my opinion, if it was up to me, I think the Power Four conferences should come up with a 4 team or 6 team or 8 team playoff for their conference, right? Let the ACC have their own playoff for the conference championship. Let the SEC have a tournament, a playoff for the SEC championship, and then those 4 conference champions who won the playoffs for their conference, let those 4 teams play for the championship, right? That would make games matter, right? They would have to figure out how they're going to seed those teams. How do you get into the SEC playoff? You'd probably need some kind of form of like a SEC record, maybe a divisional record, maybe have divisions inside the SEC the way that the NFL does. Solve it on the field, make the regular season matter, and also make the conference championship matter. I wish the only way you got to the college football playoff was to win your conference championship, right? And unfortunately, with the way that the conferences have expanded, not every team in the conference has a fair schedule, right? You even saw this last year with Alabama. Alabama had a pretty tough schedule, and Texas had a pretty weak schedule. They didn't have to play really any of the top contenders, right? They're all SEC, but depending on who you draw for that year, you might have a really hard SEC schedule or you might have a weak one. So I would like to see a way to match up the best teams in the best conferences, settle it on the field, no more eye test, no more committee, and a 4 team or a 8 team SEC playoff, and the only team that makes it to the college football playoff is the person or the team that wins that SEC tournament. And I'd like to see that in the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC do the same. And I think it'd be incredible TV. It'd be incredible home environments, and then you'd still have a 4 team playoff that was made up of those 4 Power Four conference champions only. The only way to get to the national championship is to win your conference. I think that would be amazing. I'd love to hear your comments below. So thanks for checking out this video. Again, I'm here every day doing real estate. I've helped hundreds of people buy and sell and invest in the Tuscaloosa real estate area, Tuscaloosa real estate market, and just the metro area. It's a big area, about an hour from the city center of Tuscaloosa. If I can help you in any way, just click that link below. Let's hop on a call. Would love to hear your comments below. Thanks for checking out today's video.